what are the challenges that
Mhm.
most of these women face in professional world?
That we don't think big enough. So I think mentorship is so key, not just because of their learning, also because they get access to a role model. And the lack of role model
Yep.
is something that I feel like they struggle with.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing is the best entrepreneurs and the best founders are able to adapt to the climate, and they can make a shift, not thinking, okay, in 3 months I'm going to shift, in 6 months I'm going to shift. No, today. How are you going to change today?
Hi everyone, welcome back to Spill the Tea Podcast by Tinkerlust. Hari ini saya bersama Samira Shihab, founder of Tinkerlust dan principal at IC Ventures. Hai Samira, apa kabar?
Hi Mas Rizal.
Apa kabar?
Baik.
Really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Thanks for having me.
Despite of sibuk banget pasti, dan tapi I think this is a good time for us to talk a lot, especially about your journey, dan kita pengen tahu banyak sih terkait startup scene di Indonesia tuh kayak gimana sekarang. From your experience. Tapi boleh diceritain dulu nggak? Karena gue pribadi tahu Samira, lihat di social media, dulu pas masih di Tinkerlust gitu kan. Dan actually baru-baru ini tahu ternyata udah di AC Ventures gitu kan. Berjalannya dulu gimana sih? Dulu, background-nya dulu. Boleh.
Oke, background mungkin mulai dari sebelum kuliah, right? Itu mulai di Amerika, 25 tahun sebenarnya. I grew up there dari umur 5 tahun sampai my late 20s.
Yep.
Dari S1, S2, nikah di Amerika, terus baru balik ke Indonesia sekitar 2014. Yeah, so more than 10 years ago now. I came back for the opportunity in tech, essentially. Karena I got my master's, my MBA di Silicon Valley. I was hit by the entrepreneurship bug.
When was it?
2014-an.
Okay.
Yeah, 2014-an. I remember setahun sebelumnya kita baru keluar The Social Network, you know, the movie, and all this buzz about entrepreneurship, about tech, and essentially going to grad school in the Bay Area, udah ada Google, Facebook, dan lain-lain. It really inspired me to explore the world of entrepreneurship and tech. So waktu balik ke Indonesia, I saw sebenarnya tuh masih blue ocean sama sekali. Itu baru aja ada toko bagus yang menjadi OLX waktu itu.
Betul. The early days of e-commerce.
The early days of e-commerce. Now, we know a lot more about e-commerce and the bloody journey it's gonna go through. Tapi dulu kan it was like very inspiring to be a part of the ecosystem. So my husband and I, we decided, gimana kalau misalnya kita ke Indonesia and explore this industry. Karena dia juga backgroundnya tech and he's also a founder himself, actually. So 2014, we packed up our bags, we came to Indonesia, and we started our first company, actually. Di situ, I built a hospitality management platform. It failed after sekitar 16 bulanan. And that was, interesting for me. Yeah. So that's a little bit about my background. My education background, my undergrad is in economics, terus ngambil S2 in finance. So I'm actually finance background.
Yeah. You have finance mindset lah ya. Mau tanya, the core difference when you were in US ya, gitu ya. Ekosistemnya atau orang-orangnya seperti apa dibandingkan sama Indonesia waktu itu. Kayak banyak kita dengar bahwa mereka sudah terbiasa untuk memiliki freedom to do what they want to do, create what they want to create, and the support system, the ecosystem is helping that. Kalau di sini mungkin waktu itu belum terlalu, tapi mungkin dari sudut pandang Shamira seperti apa?
Waktu pertama-pertama sebenarnya it was easier to start up, right? Kalau di Indonesia tuh kayak serba gampang buat hiring dan lain-lain, tapi it was blind. Like I remember doing market research karena kepengen tahu nih sebenarnya opportunity di Indonesia tuh apa? What should we create? What is in need? Itu belum banyak data-data, market research. We didn't know what existed, what wasn't there. So that's why we created a business that did really well in the States. Tapi waktu di-adopt ke Indonesia tuh it failed karena kita belum ngerti market. Tapi kalau misalnya we want to deep dive into the market understanding, belum ada gitu. We really needed to go through it. Karena itu masih dibangun sebenarnya all of those learnings.
Yeah.
It's not as rich as now.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things, like, you don't know what you don't know, which is
Yeah.
great.
Mm.
When you want to start a business, that blind confidence will push you into, making those decisions.
Yeah, memaksa kita untuk akhirnya belajar dan akhirnya to really understand.
Yeah.
Dan setelah itu, how did you start your business? I mean, like, what are the potentials that you saw specifically in Indonesia at that time?
So, okay, namanya local social, setelah local social tutup, sebenarnya my confidence was really low and I wanted to learn. So I jumped into a family office slash
Yeah.
PE firm, and I did also consulting on the side. So I consulted companies yang mau masuk ke Indonesia based on my learnings. Dan ambil kesempatan itu untuk belajar market sebenarnya. I was looking at, okay, what are the successful companies di Europe, the Australia, the other parts of the world that could come into Indonesia based on the learnings that I've come. So I saw that, there were a few different buckets, like the e-commerce or the tech-enabled plays. But I felt like at that time, 2014, e-commerce was hot and sexy,
Yeah.
It
Sure.
was, right? So 2016, that's when I started doing research, tapi beda sekarang. Bedanya mulai dari ngelihat market Indonesia dulu sih. What can they afford?
Yep.
What excites them?
Yep.
What's their behavior, their trends? And that's why we decided to launch Tinkerlust. Tapi I validated that thesis through the success of comparable markets gitu, dengan ada spin buat ke Indonesia. Nah, spinnya itu the products that we offer, the categories, the pricing, the messaging juga gitu ya.
I mean, at that time, one of the better strategies itu memang adapt to similar market and then try to make it here.
Yeah.
Like maybe adapt to India, maybe adapt to some of our startups back then is adapting from the US also. Waktu itu yang diadapt dari mana dan twist apa yang Samira bikin waktu itu?
So ada namanya that's still going on today. It's called Vistir Collective. Ada juga Depop, right? So it's basically pre-loved luxury goods. And how we differentiated Tinkerlust itu, we expanded it to mass. So instead of just offering luxury or Hermes, Chanel, Louis Vuitton, we also expanded ada Zara, ada Forever 21. Tapi long story short, sekarang kita udah balik lagi ke luxury because we've seen the change of market.
Okay.
Because initially in 2016, 2017, people didn't want to buy luxury goods online. But the market of consumers has matured. And therefore, when you're, now we're almost 10 years, Tinkerlust, you also have to change with the consumer perspective as well.
Betul.
Thrifting is sexy.
Yep.
Second-hand goods, people pre-loved is sexy. Dulu tuh nggak sama sekali, right?
I think you were the first ones that actually popularized the pre-loved.
Pre-loved, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that I kind of curious. Since the start, you're quite focused on the market that is very close to you, in the sense that it's for women.
For women.
And I think that's the breadth or the goods that you love as well. Did you find it deliberately? Like, you really want it because you love it? Because you're actually going to use it? Or you just see the potential?
So, after my first startup failure, my second one is very much more formulaic, meaning that it's not about me and my interest. It's about what I think could work in the market, and I feel like that's you kind of gain a little bit more knowledge about the startup journey and the entrepreneurship journey, how hard it is. And so you kind of wake up, right? And you think about, instead of, okay, what's interesting to me? What's my passion? What's my hobby? You think about just what would work here.
Okay.
What is the opportunity? You have to be very opportunistic.
Quite pragmatic in a way.
Exactly, absolutely. And I feel that the longer you are an entrepreneur, the more you feel that way, right? Yeah.
More realistic we are.
More realistic,
More
yeah.
data-driven numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what are the challenges back then in terms of e-commerce? 2015, 16, before COVID, let's just say, compared to now. What's actually changed, if there are changes?
Yeah. Well, I think for e-commerce, e-commerce back then was much sexier than it is now. So I feel
Yeah.
like now, when if you're a startup founder and you're say, oh, I want to build a marketplace or an e-commerce, you have so much lessons that you've learned from others, and
Yeah.
it's not as vibrant, the market, and not when we realize it's perhaps not the best startup to go into.
As of now,
As
yeah.
of now, it's
Yeah.
very bloody. It's a war chest. A lot of the bigger players that even went IPO maybe have pivoted away from that. So now, if we compare today versus 10 years ago, it's just, the data, what works, what doesn't. And I don't know if I would recommend someone going into
To
building
that
an e-commerce, right?
anymore.
Yeah, exactly. With like the likes of Shopee, TikTok, Shop, right?
Yeah.
So there's so many other different channels instead of building your own site. Yeah.
Yeah. And the era of e-commerce itu sangat ditandai dengan the cash burning,
Yeah, the
right?
cash burning.
Cash burning made the exponential growth.
Yeah.
Everyone can have much cheaper, a lot of promotions,
Yeah.
and now, of course, the cash burning is not there anymore. And we see only several players, as you mentioned, yang masih menjadi pemimpin. Sisanya udah pada
Yeah.
pivot atau udah
Yeah.
gugur lah gitu. Do you see that sebenarnya e-commerce ujung-ujungnya adalah hampir zero sum game, in a sense?
Well,
or duopoly kind of?
well, I feel like when we talk about, burning for the sake of burning, I mean, for the sake of growth, burning
Yeah.
for the sake of growth, it's not just e-commerce so much, Rizal. It's
Oh, yeah,
like
exactly.
everything. It's like that was the era we were in. 2016 to 2020, we did like investors in the ecosystem saw those vanity metrics, high level GMV, right?
Yeah.
Now it's not even like that. It's EBITDA, right? We want to see profitability right away, bottom line. So we went through stages. Sama GMV.
Yeah.
Then after that, revenue. And then after
Yeah.
that, like here we are today. So it's not just, let's not just think about, oh, e-commerce is that way. It's every single sector, no matter if it is e-commerce, ed tech, fintech, right? So instead of growth for those vanity metrics, we want to get rid of like all of the outside noises and just get down to fundamentals.
And now yang bisnis yang masih bertahan dan berkembang yang fundamental itu.
Fundamentals,
It's all
absolutely.
about fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely. And so right now, when we are in such a tech winter and we didn't anticipate this tech winter would last so long, these entrepreneurs have to look in the mirror and think about, okay, what's my focus? What's my fundamentals? Because the way I am judged and the way I am defined as success is absolutely different than perhaps when I started.
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing is the best entrepreneurs and the best founders are able to adapt to the climate and they can make a shift, not thinking, okay, in 3 months, I'm going to shift. In 6 months, I'm going to shift. No, today. How are you going to change today? And that's through, defining all of that, right? But I think we're gonna get into that.
Yeah.
Aku udah heated up.
I mean, that's what I'm just like very I can see the shift of
Yeah.
your mindset in a way. You have like the founder hat and also the investor hat.
Yeah.
Talk me through that.
Okay.
Dari founder terus akhirnya di AC Ventures, mostly as an investor yang tadinya membesarkan baby sendiri, kira-kira gitu ya. Sekarang membesarkan baby-baby orang, gitu ya, untuk bisa menjadi anak yang bisa sehat jalan dan apa yang terjadi secara perubahan itu again is a choice that you make gitu karena memang you see that you can contribute more to that area atau ada you have certain mission you want to.
So I'm very passionate about the digital tech space, right? Especially in Indonesia, because I feel like it is such a driver in our economy, and also like in innovation in itself, in every sector. Tapi I think the reason why I decided to join AC Ventures is I've known the partners. Adrian has been an OG as well. Andu has been an OG. And so I was inspired by them to join. But I saw the opportunity in learning about different sectors outside of my own, but also contributing all of the lessons that I've learned. And I guess my founder investor journey, in the beginning, there was a huge learning curve the way I my mindset, the way I viewed investors. As a founder, I put them in a pedestal. But I realized, okay, investors are just like founders, where we're trying to learn as fast as we can with as many data points as we can. And in the beginning, so there was a learning curve. There was definitely imposter syndrome. I mean, I was now at the same table as those that I used to pitch to. Right. So how do I even make sense of all of that? Right. But then I got over that really quickly, and I realized, okay, let's just work really hard. And I wanted to support the founders in any way possible. So when we built out the value creation framework at AC Ventures, it was based on okay, my own blueprint as a founder. And I really admire, AC Ventures partners, because they do realize that smart capital is about helping not just in monetary fashion, but the organizational support as well, right? So to clarify, in VC, there's the investment team, right? Deploy funds, and then there's also the portfolio management or value creation.
That's where you are.
Yeah, that's what I lead, and I work with the founders in really identifying okay, how can we support it, whether that's organizational design, business development, marketing, corporate governance, right? And seeing, okay, what is the key ask that we can really help you with and drive you towards. And so that came very, very naturally to me, because when I joined as well, I felt like, okay, VC game is a long game, right? You're going to be in it for more than 5 years. And I felt like I'll be here for a while, but I'm still young, right? I still want to get my hands dirty, masih mau operational gitu kan. So that's why I felt like this role, it was a natural step for me.
Which one is harder, founder or investor?
Oh,
I mean,
gosh.
founder, you focus on one thing, you try
Mhm.
to grow it.
Yeah.
Of course, jadinya punya tanggung jawab. Let's say I'm an investor.
Yeah.
Now, investor, you have to grow several portfolios,
Yeah.
right? And you have to responsibility to duitnya supaya muter dan bisa kembali.
Yeah.
So which one is
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, to be an amazing investor is very difficult, I feel. I think that it can be even more difficult than being a founder, to be an amazing investor. I feel like to be an investor, to be a founder, dua-duanya susah, dua-duanya, but to be an amazing investor, Midas touch investor, that is a different league of its own, and it's extremely difficult to anticipate trends and also anticipate the winners, right? And I feel like it takes time to acquire that skill.
Real
experience. Like one of our partners, Helen, she's had 20 years of experience, and I feel like when you're in a room with her, she just kind of knows.
She got the
instinct. She gets it. She gets the instinct, and that takes time, right? That takes decades, I would say. But then let's talk about founder life. I have never experienced stress. The most I have has been as a founder. Stress, pressure, the work-life balance doesn't exist as a founder. So, as an investor, you do have that because it takes time. It's a slower pace. Therefore, it's very hard to compare. It's like apples to oranges.
Maybe a founder itu lebih high intensity, day to day, maybe minute by minute basis. You have to do everything.
Yeah. So when they're coming in and you can see the circles under their eyes, like
you kind of
I understand. And
you relate to them.
I relate to them, and also as a on the investor side, when I give them advice and they're like, you know what, we know our business, and I'm like, yeah, you do know your business. I am only just one single data point. You do you, because you know it better than me, and that's why we invested in you, because we believe in you juga kan to run this business and be dominant in your sector.
Yeah, exactly. Dan akhirnya, I think that's the best combination. I think karena punya pengalaman sebagai founder, you know how hard it is so you can empathize. But you also sense bullshit too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like that's why, it takes time to be a great investor, because you understand the growth levers. And also founders know this. They know that certain growth levers will tell a different story for each pitch deck, right? So, for me, when I see numbers or when I see financials, you have to look behind that. It tells one side of the story.
Yeah.
The better the better investigative like due diligence that you have, it's about the organization, understanding, okay, what do the people say about this business? What is the business process that is already built,
Okay.
right? And those tell a deeper story, than just the financials. Going to sites and seeing, the customers interact with the brand.
Yep.
What does the market say? What do the employees say? That tells you a bigger and much more colorful story about the business.
Very interesting. I mean, so you say that sebagai investor, you tend to focus more also on the people side, and sekarang pertanyaan tentang people tadi, mungkin masuk sedikit ke your investment world lah. You as a founder datang ke sini bikin bisnis around like 2014-15. So ada 10 years gap sekarang, ngelihat founder-founder sekarang. How do you see them right now compared to what we are back then, zaman-zaman itu? I mean, semuanya masih semangat, semua pengen cari investor, pitching setiap hari and all that. Sekarang, of course, dengan thesis yang sudah berbeda. How do you see them? Apakah mereka jadi more resilient atau mereka punya pandangan berbeda? How do you see
Sekarang founder tuh, I feel like they're so intelligent and they're they need to be so sharp because there's so much going against them actually. Like dulu, there was not a lot of competition.
Exactly.
There was not a lot of knowledge sharing. The ecosystem wasn't built. So just a little bit of brightness or shine to your name, you stand out. You stand out. Tapi sekarang, you need to be on top of your game, not just your pedigree, but your experience and exposure, and also the right founder market fit to a specific company, right? Like we want to understand, okay, you're a founder and you're building this business in this sector. Why you? Why would you win? And so dulu it was like, oh, you have this idea. Okay,
you
great.
Great idea. You have good degree.
You have sure. Why not? That is enough for the validation of investment for you, right? But sekarang, no, it's not. It's about like this entire due diligence process, and we are looking for a reason not to invest in you rather than a reason to invest in you. And I mean, that's not a jaded way of saying it. It's just we want to be a little bit more prudent and knowledgeable, right? About this decision that we're making.
Of course. Talking about the pipeline of like new founders or new startups, do you see that the growth is as big as the way we were like before pandemic, let's say, or growth-nya juga semakin sedikit, pipeline startup baru, founder baru semakin sedikit karena climate-nya semakin susah, atau Shamira juga melihat sebenarnya banyak founder yang mungkin udah pivot, jadi mungkin lebih interest sama founder yang udah pernah bikin sesuatu, gagal, and then bikin lagi. Spektrumnya gimana sih?
So, I think that sebenarnya mungkin the number of founders itu makin banyak. Actually, the growth of this growth of innovation is still there and still alive, right? But it's about the curation and the filter that has become so stringent that yang lulus, yang resilient menjadi sesuatu, it's like a handful, right? So I feel like that. And what was the second question? Sorry.
Dan apakah sekarang lebih banyak founder yang tadi pivoting? Jadi kayak dia pernah bikin apa, gagal, atau pernah exit di suatu.
I think itu menjadi data point founder. So the more data points, the more history that we have of you is better, right? And we know that, okay, you're invested in this sector and you're really passionate. Jadinya when things get tough, you're not going to just run away. So I think it's just more data points. Like, okay, you've built, you've led.
And you get more confidence if you have that data.
Absolutely, we get more.
Dibanding sama yang belum ada.
Karena kita kan mencari case study yang bisa contohkan.
Exactly. Nah, one more case study. I think one of the reason why our startup scene growing really fast itu juga karena a lot of like unicorns back in the days,
Mhm.
like the likes of Gojeks, the Bukalapaks,
Yeah.
the Tokopedia, Traveloka, and all that gitu ya. Waktu itu memang betul-betul kayak the growth and semuanya ngelihat dan it inspires a lot of like young people atau orang yang mau bikin
Mhm.
bisnis to create something,
Yeah.
right? Because they see that as a pathway.
Yeah.
Now, we also see some the bad ones juga gitu. So, apakah itu mempengaruhi the overall vibe of the new founders atau bahkan orang yang kayak aduh kemarin misalnya ada yang ngomong, aduh gue nggak berani ngomongin kalau gue mau bikin startup gitu karena stigmanya itu jadinya kayak pasti jadi berbeda dibanding dulu. You agree with that, or do you have
Well,
different perspectives?
I agree. Like a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, kalau misalnya ada potential founder yang graduate dari GoTo atau dari Traveloka, or dari Bukalapak, it was very easy for them to raise money because it was like, hey, I led a team here and I know how to, basically create the foundation for eventually it's going to be a unicorn gitu kan, because I've lived through it. But now a lot of graduates actually see that, especially with all the layoffs happening, they're not seeing tech as sexy anymore, and they're thinking about other industries or other companies. So they're not even wanting to start a company because they know how hard it's going to be. They're so used to a really great package, right? So it's not about starting a company and then fundraising. It's about, okay, do I want to even stay in the tech industry?
Yeah.
Right? Because that becomes a question as well.
Yeah.
And I've seen that because in value creation, one of our pillars is we help recruit like for C-level and sometimes even for co-founders for our portfolio. And hiring has been harder because the great talent are being taken maybe by BUMN or by
Corporations.
Fortune 500, right? Why are they going to risk for ESOP? What is ESOP worth anyway these days? Yeah.
Still worth the.
Is it, right? So
the
that's another question. So it's not about starting a company, it's about even like the tech industry. But we've lived through a few of these bumps, and I can assure you that it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
We just need to ride along, right? Yeah.
Then I agree with you with the notion of this is a phase and maybe momentum change.
Yeah,
Tapi
absolutely.
kalau menurut Shamira, apa yang akan atau gini mungkin pertanyaannya, akan seperti apa bentuknya setelah ini secara positif? Tadi sempat di-mention tentang everything sekarang fokusnya juga ke EBITDA. Of course, we're talking about profitability, sustainability in the long run, right? Tapi kemarin saya sempat nanya juga sama previous guest, kalau semua visi fokusnya kepada EBITDA, profitability, apakah itu akan hinder innovation? Karena innovation is sometimes very risky, sometimes maybe only like small percentage it will be successful. Karena ya memang it's new, something that's never done before. How do you see that? What will be the momentum?
That's a really great question. So I feel like a few things are shifting, right? As you mentioned, VCs are focusing more on like profitability, and profitability essentially is the fundamentals of the business. If a business is not profitable or healthy, essentially like what do we have here? And dulu tuh we were distracted maybe on the branding or the media where all of that were positive signs of a healthy business, but maybe not necessarily. So we've quieted down and we just look at that the essentials, right? So what does that bring us to? Well, investors are going to support and believe in companies that can focus and just double down on really good business models and really, achieving product market fit as well as their USP that they can offer to a market to ensure their longevity and their sustainability. So that's, I feel like, where we're at in the market.
And do you see that there are still few new innovations coming from?
So innovation, there is definitely. However, innovation wherever we are, whether it's a large corporation or a small startup, is a risk. right?
Of course.
And if a company, if a portfolio company has not yet achieved the fundamental health
Yeah.
that we want to see,
Yeah.
why are they
Innovate.
innovating,
Yeah,
right? They
yeah.
need to
Focus.
focus first before they explore the other channels of revenue.
Yeah.
Because what other channels of revenue, if they're their business model is not working, it means they can just pivot over.
Yeah.
So I feel like innovation still exists for sure.
Yeah.
However, you need to make sure that that essential business model first is done, is udah beres gitu.
So yeah, so you're saying that now for founders atau orang yang lagi jalanin bisnis, fokus ke fundamental dulu.
Yeah,
And then after that, how can you innovate? How can
Yeah.
you, let's say, make exponential growth out of it?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And especially like now with the growth of AI, there's a lot more ways in which we could decrease our costs.
Yeah,
through,
or cost efficient.
Yeah, cost efficient because of the increase in productivity of each individual member, right?
Yeah,
So we should be able to reach profitability sooner with less resources, and then we can save that for
yeah,
innovation. And innovation also is how are we using the tools that are already
Yes.
given to us? We don't have to create our own tools and platforms when there's so many to choose from. Innovation can also mean the way we're building our business, the way we're using these tools and optimizing.
doing things more efficient.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
also interesting. Karena I think that's the biggest mindset change that is happening right now.
Mhm.
Of course, with the recent cases that we all heard lately,
Yeah.
banyak yang akhirnya fokus juga untuk mengetahui good corporate governance.
Yeah.
How to really dive down into the financial
Mhm.
things. Do you also encourage that to your portfolio right now?
Absolutely. Yeah. Corporate governance is essential. And the investment team is very adamant about, aligning with the portfolio companies, like
Yeah.
as, from the due diligence up until we're managing the portfolio, that it's every month we need to see our financials every quarter, right? And it needs to be audited as well. And it's not just about understanding the financials, but also about transparent communication and understanding their organizational growth, right? Like what's happening in what their challenges are.
Yeah.
So not just the reporting, but also just the transparent communication between investor and company.
Sedikit penasaran tentang ini.
Yeah.
Samira kan pernah jadi founder. Apakah dengan tadi that kind of relationship that you're trying to build right now, which is I think it's fair. So the investor has more I won't say more say in the company,
Yeah.
but have more involvement, basically to ensure that the fundamentals are right. Tapi apakah founder bisa risih nggak sih? Gitu kayak, duh, investor gue nih ikut campur nih,
Iya,
gitu.
iya.
Gue diteleponin mulu, kan pasti deg-degan ya.
Iya,
I mean
pasti.
like, duh, belum
Iya.
balik nih, belum profit nih, gitu.
Iya.
Gimana balance-nya? Supaya mereka juga ngerasa kayak, no, we are still can build what we want to build.
No, absolutely. Like as a founder, when my investors ask me for more information atau kayak they have input, obviously
Minta laporan keuangan dong. Gitu.
Iya, tapi kan itu akhirnya udah biasa setiap bulan. Apalagi our investors lumayan, dari pertama they focus on profitability juga. They need to know that once an investor comes onto the board, they have different expectations. Jadinya kalau misalnya belum siap untuk that type of input, sebenarnya mungkin belum siap ada orang ketiga di dalam.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, it goes both ways. So we are very upfront with the expectations that we have when we come on board, right? We'll definitely support you, and we are a life cycle investor gitu. Tapi we also want that transparency and upfrontness and honesty, right? Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about sectors a little bit. What kind of sectors did you believe will have, I don't know, growth or sexy in the next 1 to 3 years?
So for Indonesia, consumer is always
Still.
consumer, because we're seeing much more tech-enabled solutions, right? So I think that Indonesia has realized that that's opportunity sebenarnya masih growing di situ, and we're such a large market as well. So consumer is big. Also healthcare, especially after the pandemic. service providers. You see that popping around all throughout Indonesia, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
AI? What do you think?
AI
Or
for
to what extent?
consumption, for
Oh,
consumption and usage, though I don't know yet if we have like a homegrown AI company, aside from say Kata AI that you had mentioned before. Just because the supply of engineers and AI talent is outside of Indonesia.
Iya, di sini belum banyak.
Belum banyak, ya.
Kalau sektor yang lebih baik dihindari dulu, ada nggak? Do you have like
Mm,
this one is no good one,
e-commerce.
no good.
E-commerce, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
bloody.
Yeah, because it's bloody.
Yeah,
Mungkin itu ya,
yeah.
karena you have to raise like
You have to raise, yeah.
tons of,
Mm.
which is hari ini kayaknya udah sangat
Yeah.
saturated. Yeah. Okay. Now let's talk a bit about you mentioned a lot about people,
Yeah.
about organizational, and I believe you believe in meritocracy.
Yes,
Right.
absolutely.
You're a woman founder, and you also create a what organization?
Yeah, a platform for women
Platform.
leaders. Yeah,
Name Stellar Women.
Stellar Women.
Talk
Yeah.
me through that.
Okay.
Kenapa bikin itu? Dan apakah karena ada personal experience then you
Yeah.
decided to make that, or you want to promote something?
Okay, so no, so Stellar Women started 2019, 2018, 2019. Sebenarnya it was a way for me to bring women together that was like-minded. Karena itu udah 3 tahun ngebangun Tinkerlust dan ngelihat juga bahwa journey sebagai female entrepreneur tuh lumayan lonely dan challenging gitu. Whether that's like my imposter syndrome, my insecurities, and juga mungkin societal expectations.
Yeah.
So I did go through a time where I felt very lonely and very down, even though my company had reached, levels of, you can say success
Yeah,
gitu
yeah.
kan. We had raised funding,
Yeah.
tapi I just still felt unfulfilled. And
Hmm.
so I felt like pasti ada perempuan-perempuan lain yang berasa seperti ini gitu. So it started off as I pushed it out on my Insta stories and I was like, hey, are there other women that want to get together? We meet once a month and we just share our goals and we
Yeah.
support each other. So after that, I had expected maybe 6 or 7 people to respond, but I got around 40 people. Yeah, and then we started 2 groups that met every month. And dari 2 grup itu banyak banget yang nanya, boleh nggak aku join? Boleh nggak aku join? Akhirnya at the end of the year, I said, I want to make this structured so it can be scalable. And we launched January 2020, right before the pandemic.
Yeah, just before. So everything was still positive,
It was still
optimistic.
positive, tapi it was a blessing in disguise. Kenapa? Karena tadinya itu offline.
Okay.
Akhirnya kita pivot ke online. Jadinya we were able to reach
More.
We were able to reach more, and we focused on women entrepreneurs and women leaders. So the women entrepreneurs came together and we had events online. We also launched Stellar Women Power Accelerator, which is still running every year. We run it for in January for women entrepreneurs that want to grow their startup. Yeah.
Every community, every great community has its yang namanya common goals.
Yeah.
And common challenges as well. Kalau yang Samira lihat, how many members you have right now?
So close to 40,000.
That's a lot. You can make your own party.
Women.
Stellar Woman Party or something. Tapi, okay. Apa yang Samira lihat kayak samaan? What are the challenges that most of these women face in professional world maybe?
That we don't think big enough. Yeah.
Imposter syndrome?
I don't know if it's imposter syndrome. That beberapa perempuan yang aku bisa lihat gitu, visinya mereka lumayan konservatif. Jadinya kalau misalnya ketemu female founders di Stellar Women, ya kebanyakan UMKM kan.
Yeah.
Mereka tuh happy dengan yang ada di depan mereka, yang organically grow. They don't think about investing in their business and taking that risk or getting investment, even though their business is very good, healthy.
They create a great product, right?
Great product, great profitability, right? And so I feel like they don't think big enough. And I want them to think big and I want them to have access to mentors, have access to capital, whether that is investment or bank loans or other types of investment or angel investors. And I want them to have a network that they can rely on juga. Dan juga yang terakhir, upskilling. Educating them about, financials, educating them about branding, digital marketing, AI. So I feel, how do we give them all of these tools so they can start thinking bigger? Yeah.
Well, apa menurut Samira apa penyebabnya? Apakah for generations being stigmatized that women can only do so much compared to men? Atau memang the level of education yang mereka dapatkan dari itu mungkin ya segitu-segitu aja. Jadinya mereka cuma mikir ya segitu-segitu aja. What did you
I think
learn?
sebenarnya banyak faktor dan it's not one size fits all gitu.
Iya.
Kadang-kadang it's societal expectations. Mungkin mereka bikin company bukan karena mereka mau bikin company, tapi karena company atau being an entrepreneur is a flexible role that fits with their primary role of being a wife and mother.
Yeah.
So it's never a priority. Tapi akhirnya this company actually does well and so forth, tapi masih tentunya harus prioritize the woman role kan. Atau mungkin juga they don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what's possible because they don't have access to mentorship. Like we only see mungkin Jakarta sebenarnya ekosistemnya udah alive and well. Bandung juga udah alive and well. Mungkin Jogja juga kan. Tapi the other, keluar dari situ, we still have a lot of work to do. And most of these women are outside there. So gimana caranya kita ngasih access? That knowledge transfer needs to continuously happen. And kita harus ngebangun jembatan itu sebenarnya. Yeah.
Dan sekarang dari members yang ada itu banyak dari mana? Dan mungkin menurut data yang Samira punya, banyak yang biasanya di kota-kota seperti apa yang lebih challenging gitu? In a sense that ekosistemnya belum mendukung mereka.
You know, sedekat Banten misalnya, I have a couple members there. Tangerang Banten gitu. Sebenarnya harusnya dekat kan?
But logically harusnya.
Tapi they're saying, belum banyak fasilitasnya. So they have to come to Jakarta. Atau enggak, they go to Tangerang or Alam Sutra gitu kan. Yeah. But I feel like even those sub-small cities that's around us is still lacking in knowledge, in infrastructure, and mungkin even government policy to drive flourishing economies gitu. So we need to look beyond just the capital cities or the capital cities of like the world, right? Yeah. So tapi our members are mostly in tier 1, so Bandung, Jakarta, Surabaya, Medan, and now we're trying to also push tier 2. Tapi let's get more outside of Jakarta is a big win for me.
Kalau menurut learningnya, apa sih yang biasanya paling mereka butuhkan? Access to capital or access to knowledge misalnya, atau simply they need network, they need support from custom?
Mentorship sebenarnya. Mentorship. Karena kalau misalnya education itu with technology, you can be YouTube school, university is all good, right?
ChatGPT university.
Absolutely, ChatGPT could be your intern. Tapi kadang-kadang butuh coaching dan mentorship yang lebih a mix of life and professional motivation gitu. So mentorship.
Jadi not only skills but also like confidence level.
Confidence level karena psychologically, and in a mentor or an outsider, it's also validation, right? Like, sebenarnya you are on the right track. Karena kadang-kadang they're going in blind, they're building blind, they're thinking about they're learning autodidact, right? So now when they come with a mentor, they discuss with a mentor, the mentor gives them frameworks. Actually, sebenarnya you're already doing the right process, the right business. You're targeting the right market, brandingnya udah keren. Tapi sebenarnya frameworknya kayak gini loh. Dan kalau mau optimize, lihatnya misalnya data-datanya ini. So it's just like making sense of what they're already doing. But having that in a conversation and more one-on-one rather than it's just a one-way direct knowledge, it's more two-way. So I think mentorship is so key, not just because of their learnings, also because they get access to a role model. And the lack of role model
Yeah.
is something that I feel like they struggle with.
So hashtag woman support woman is
Yeah.
really happening in your.
Oh yeah, women support women, and like the more you speak with them, the more you want to support them.
I can believe that because I think a lot of data also say that women is the fundamental players in our economy
Mm-hmm.
as a whole, as a country.
Yeah.
Without them playing an active role, especially in UMKM,
Yeah.
SMEs, right? They're actually very active in growing our economy
Yeah.
from the ground up. So without them, I think our yeah, our country is not will not be as good.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for your initiative. Can you spill me one of your success story in Stellar Woman? Maybe growing some business or
Mm-hmm.
some woman there from point A to point B.
So,
Any success stories?
we've seen kan banyak banget women entrepreneurs tuh mulainya pas pandemi karena they were at home and they had the opportunity to start, and there was more opportunities to say start baking atau
Yeah,
or a fashion line or
yeah,
skincare gitu. And we've seen dari pandemi itu Stellar Woman was the driver for their first partnerships, for example, or their first platform to raise awareness. And we've seen them grow customers through that. I mean, I have one of our members that always say, "Oh, I've gotten my first customer
yeah.
through Stellar Woman." So sometimes it's that first steps that we actually provide, and we want to be there through that whole journey.
So combining those three, becoming a founder,
Yeah.
investor, and you have an organization, a community,
Mm-hmm.
basically. For you personally, what did you learn? And apa yang terasa bahwa oh Shamira sampai titik ini udah berkembang menjadi ini dan jadi punya new mission or
Mm-hmm.
what is your lifelong mission?
Oh gosh, I don't know. That's a really deep question. Okay, so let me start with what I've learned. What I've learned is like be humble and do not judge. So the first one is when I was starting out, I didn't have the same humility that I had now. I actually was much more confident and I had a blind confidence in, coming back from the America thinking that I knew everything,
Yeah,
right? You know the
we
you know the
have that.
stereotype,
We
right?
always
That
have,
yeah. So
fuck,
bisa gitu
yeah.
apa aja. Um, and I felt like throughout the past 10 years, what I learned is humble is the key actually for your growth and for your learning. Because if you come in and I'll always ask questions and know that everyone in the room has something to offer and for you to learn, then you're always going to be absorbing new insights and new lessons for you, wherever you go, right?
Mm,
And those skills are transferable sebenarnya. So
mm,
always uh, like learn and
mm,
try to collaborate with the other person there. So yeah, being humble, growing. And I think the second one is like don't judge anyone.
mm.
Whether, from when I was a founder, I used to judge investors,
Of course, yeah.
right? Like as a founder, we put them on pedestals where, yeah, keren banget gitu. And maybe when they don't make a decision that we agree with, we villainize them. And so now when I think about that, I'm like, I didn't know a lot about the stress that they go through, the hardships and the challenges that they go through, and the decision making that they go through to make a certain investment or not make a certain investment, right? So, being in different shoes and giving different experiences exposes you to, yeah, different types of people. So, yeah, don't judge, right?
Mm,
And as a investor or on the investor side, when I look at a founder, you have to know that like when they don't meet certain goals or um, they overestimated their forecast gitu, like there's a bigger story than that. It's not they didn't do it. Perhaps they didn't do it on purpose all the time gitu kan. They really believe that they were going to be able to reach it. And so we can't fault them, right? We
we
can't
cannot,
judge. Yeah.
yeah.
So I feel like
Empathy.
empathy
I
is,
think,
yeah,
yeah, that's
it
a word.
goes, yeah. So empathy, yeah, being humble, don't judge, having empathy, yeah. And going back to my lifelong mission,
Mhm.
I just want to continue to have fun. You know, at the end of the day, I want to continue to have fun and give back.
Mm.
Because I think I'm very privileged to work in the environment with smart people, with an amazing ecosystem, and I've had a lot of insights, a lot of knowledge, and I want to share that. I don't want to gatekeep anything. I feel like that's one of my friends says that, like, that's how we show up to the universe, and I always take that,
Yeah.
right? Like, let's not gatekeep. If we learn something and that can benefit someone else, like, let's give it to them. And I feel like that's also what's driven me to build Stellar Women as well, right? Like, whatever I can give to them, whatever I can support, I'm gonna do that. And also at AC Ventures through value creation, whenever I have new insights, new knowledge, let's support them and empower them how we can.
Do you think you're on the right track to reach your vision?
I hope so. I
You
hope
feel
so.
that?
I do. I
You
do
feel
feel
you
that.
have fun?
I feel like I have a lot of fun.
Mm.
And I mean, some days are easier than others.
Yeah.
And though net, it's fun and it's enriching and fulfilling. And feel like I found a purpose. And I feel like if you found a purpose and you can be fulfilled, what more can you want, right? So you have to be grateful.
Interesting. So before I close this, I'm very curious about your. I assume you read a lot.
I do.
Yeah. What are the typical books that you read? Is it fiction or you're into business? Or
So I'm like a,
because you're an investor, you
yeah,
investor
right.
kind of book?
So
Or
I really like, I enjoy reading a lot about other founders' journeys.
yeah.
So, like the Amazon Jeff Bezos book, I've read that one. I just finished a couple of weeks ago. But one of the ones that I really love is by Michael Singer, and it is the Uncharted Path, the Uncharted Soul.
Yep.
And I read that book probably once a year because,
So you've been reading it
yeah,
over and over.
over and over again.
Why?
So he is a tech founder,
Yeah.
but he found his way by accident by just kind of letting go and surrendering. So it's essentially like the surrender experiment.
Hmm.
Yeah. And every chapter, it goes and explores his journey through just surrendering. Because I feel like I'm the opposite of that, where I make opportunities in life happen.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm a
yeah. You
go-getter.
chase.
I
You,
chase.
yeah, you're a go-getter.
I'm a
Yeah.
go-getter. And this book reminds me that sometimes living life by surrendering is actually much more fulfilling and enriching. And it's just a reminder that whatever is meant to happen will happen at the best possible time. Yet I read it every year because I need a reminder every year. Yeah.
Well, that's very inspiring. I mean, to close the session, do you have a message for founders or the professionals in tech? Looking at our current situation right now, everyone is saying about tech winter, and our economy is also like a bit uncertain right now. A lot of uncertainties happening around. Do you have like specific message for them? Surrender. No.
Surrender. Surrender. Continue to work hard.
Yeah.
Continue to put your heads down and work hard because at the end of the day, that will speak volumes. And try to silence the noise, but yet be perspective about what's happening, you know? So don't just be stubborn, but like you have to be, not just your company has to be agile, but you as a founder, as a leader needs to adapt and be agile continuously,
Yeah.
right? That means like with your own teams, with your investors, with the ecosystem. Yeah. But at the end of the day, just put your head down, work
Hard.
super hard. Yeah. And you'll get there.
You'll get there.
You'll get
We'll
there.
get there,
We'll
guys.
get there. I will get there.
We'll get there. Thank you so much,
Thank you so
Samira.
much
This
for
is a
having me.
very fun session.
Thank you for having
I
me.
hope you will reach your lifelong vision.
Thank you so much.
Have fun.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye bye.